Inaccuracies among War Thunder's top tier jets. Part 5? Fuck, I don't know. Number 1. The GA-8 Avenger gun on the A-10 Warthog fires PGU-13 high explosive incendiary and PGU-14 depleted uranium armor-piercing incendiary rounds. Neither of these round types have tracers. Number 2. The F-104S ASA in air defense configuration is able to carry 4 sidewinders with the 2 aspids, rather than just 2. Unfortunately, the under-fuselage pylons were never wired for AIM-9Ls, at least as far as I can tell, but they should still be able to load AIM-9Js, which would make the aspid loadout much more viable. Number 3. Various aircraft such as the F-4E, Mirage F-1, A-10, F-14, etc. should have the ability to deploy chaff or flares separately, even with both loaded. Right now, if you have a mix of both, you deploy both when you hit the button. Number 4. The A-10's armor-piercing belt should have 5 PGU-14 rounds for every 1 PGU-13, rather than the 3-in-1 it has currently. Number 5. The F-14A didn't carry the base AIM-7E Sparrow. The AIM-7E4 it started with was basically an E2 with improved reliability, and would be about the same to us in War Thunder. F-14As were also capable of carrying AIM-9Ps. Number 6. The 9K-127 Vicar on the top Russian helicopters only had a range of 10 kilometers when fired from a moving aircraft, like an Su-25. When fired from a helicopter, that range dropped to 8 kilometers maximum, and 6 kilometers at night. What's more, it could only be guided 2 at a time, not 12. It could also only track an air target at speeds below 800 kph, and couldn't pull more than about 8 Gs without losing sight of the laser and failing to track. Number 7. The AGM-65D should be incapable of locking a point on the ground the way A's and B's do, instead only locking valid thermal signatures. The thermal resolution of its seeker should also be about 2.5 times higher, as should the contrast, helping enormously to identify targets. Number 8. The Ah1z Viper, which I'll point out entered service in 2010, is currently only firing the basic AGM-114B version of the Hellfire, which began to be phased out in 1992. It should be using at least the AGM-114K, but personally I'd like to see the K2A version with a blast fragmentation sleeve, meaning just like the Vicar, it could be an anti-tank or proxy-fusing anti-aircraft weapon at the same time. The Viper should also be using the AIM-9M. Number 9. The Super 530 semi-active radar homing missile on the Mirage F1 should have a maximum overload of 20 Gs. Number 10. The AIM-54 Phoenix active radar homing missile would arc upwards to higher altitudes in order to maintain speed while travelling long distances, rather than flying in a straight line to hit a target 60 km away. This is called lofting. This would make it much more effective in its terminal phase after the motor has stopped burning, since retaining better speed also means maintaining better manoeuvrability at those ranges. Maximum altitude for the loft was 80,000 feet, but the Phoenix missile would plot the most sensible trajectory, perhaps only lofting to 50,000 if that would be most efficient. In game, even with a 100-kilometer shot, nothing. Number 11. The A-10A never lost the ability to carry the GBU-8 guided bomb. The weapon was rendered redundant come the introduction of the paveway, though the A-10A could never self-guide it. The GBU-8 came out of operational use in 1980, before the AGM-65D missile was adopted, but the weapon was still included in the A-10's Weapons Delivery Manual as late as the 1983 issue, which was valid until 1988, by which point the Maverick D was in service. Why do I know this? The AGM-65B was also still in its arsenal until 1992. Basically, Gaijin took a really cheap way to deny the tech tree model weapons the Premium has, and given how bad the AGM-65D is right now, the Premium is just kinda better, at a lower BR. Because of course it is. Number 12, but sort of 11.5. The A-10A should be able to use the AGM-65G, H, and K versions of the Maverick. The H would replace the AGM-65B as an electro-optical sensor, while the G and K were heavier versions of the D and H respectively, with much heavier warheads, meaning they could only be carried 1 at a time on the pylons, rather than 3. They would, however, do much more post-penetration damage. In truth, these were mainly meant to destroy fortifications, but we're still lacking them, aren't we? Number 13. The F-14A's Pratt & Whitney TF-30 engines were infamous for their compressor stalls. These occurred in high angle of attack maneuvers or sudden throttle changes at supersonic speeds. This is completely missing from War Thunder. Number 14. The R550 Magic II missile should have a significant resistance to countermeasures when compared to the Magic I. Number 15. I'm sorry lads, but the F-4C was only cleared to fly with 1 or 2 Vulcan gun pods, not all 3 at a time. And number 16. The Burt is just... Come on Gaijin, you have one job. Alright guys, episode 5 of this little series. Man, episode 1 was over a year ago. How long was I asleep last night? I thought I'd put this together in between our little wheeled IFV videos. If you didn't see, we covered a massive list of potential vehicles like the LAV-25 or EBRC Jaguar and those type that could be added to War Thunder, and the Russian and Chinese counterpart list is in the making. I'll be honest, since the Danger Zone patch dropped, my motivation to play War Thunder took a dive. I needed a bit of a break, but these videos are always super easy, super fun, and I hope you enjoyed this one. I bet we'll probably have enough for a part 6 when more 4th generation jets are released. I will get around to doing regular content for all the new patch vehicles soon. I've barely played the F-14 so far, the matchmaker's just been horrible. But hopefully Gaijin learns from this not to introduce these super hyped vehicles by themselves. A Tornado F3, no MiG-29, but at least a MiG-25P, maybe a Yak-41, that'd be cool. Anything to help offset that single nation spam. I will play it for a couple of videos though soon. Honestly, I've been enjoying shooting them down too much. People get very upset. Feed me salt! But back to the point, I do want to ask if any of you guys would be interested in seeing a similar video for ground vehicles. There are so many I could mention, but there are other content creators who tend to cover that aspect, like Spookston for example, and I don't want to step on his thunder, so to speak. If that is something you want, go ahead and let us know, and we'll see. I'm not going to cover super specific data values that are classified and we just have estimates to go on, but visual model inaccuracies, missing round times, missing functionality, all that's fair game. Speaking of Thunder, we have a whole string of new War Thunder based merch out in the armory. I've been super excited to finally get all that out, so go grab a t-shirt, a water bottle, or anything else. We've got pins, stickers, mugs, phone cases, and if you use code KOALA22, you'll get a 10% discount for the next week only. We also have a bunch of spots open in our Kilt squadrons in War Thunder, so if you would like to join our growing community, search up Kilt in the squadron list in game, and join any one of those squadrons which have spots free. There's no requirements, and we have a squadron sign-up channel in the Coalition Forces Discord, where there are some instructions to get yourself some unique squad roles. Anyway, thank you as always for watching, and I'll catch you lads and lasses in the skies. But around the end of 2021, various Russian tanks, predominantly the T-72B and B3, started to be spotted with these big rooftop cages sitting above the turret, and initial reports supposed that these were a measure to defeat top attack ATGMs. Now if you're not familiar with the concept of a top attack missile, you've almost certainly heard of them, with Ukraine fielding a bunch of them against the invading Russian army, consisting particularly of the Swedish In-Law and the American Javelin.